Vanakkam. Welcome to this video on classics in neuroscience. We have been looking at the first set of videos on why do we have to study the history of neuroscience, especially why study the years 1950s. In this video, we will be discussing a few points as to why the history of neuroscience extends across many species, and history of neuroscience also extends across many systems, and the history of neuroscience extends across many hierarchical levels of organization. We will be looking at these three topics in this video. The history of neuroscience extends across perhaps all species, starting with the single cell organisms. We are interested in understanding the biological world. This is an interest for us. In particular, our interest is to contextualize our existence in this space of evolutionary theory. So, for this purpose, we need to understand this field of neuroscience in various species. Only then we can contextualize the evolutionary theory or neuroscience as seen from the viewpoint of evolution. More importantly, as humans, we are always curious about our existence and our nature. Studying neuroscience across species gives us an opportunity to look at the unique gift or the unique nature of humans as a species. Of course, the important application is that we are interested in understanding why some diseases happen in humans and what are the methods of treatment and therapy. Of course, this is the grand application, but there are also philosophical reasons why we need to understand, or we want to understand, human nature or our purpose or the nature of our existence. But we are also interested more urgently in understanding the reasons why some specific diseases develop and how to go about treating them. So, these are all the reasons why we are interested in studying neuroscience in general, but studying them across species gives us an opportunity to improve our understanding in the context of evolutionary theory. So, this is the reason why the field of neuroscience extends across species, even species such as bacteria and worms, to insects, arthropods, mollusks, for example, Aplasia. Then among vertebrates, we have fish and amphibians, reptiles, aves. Then we have mammals, the small mammals, hedgehogs, rabbits, rats, mice, cats, dogs, non-human primates such as macaques, and the big monkeys such as bonobos, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans. Then we have humans. There are studies that extend across all these species. For example, one study that impressed me while I was studying learning, for example, was the study of songbird learning. This is how the songbirds learn to sing. I do not remember the exact date or year of publication. That is Toomer and Brainard. Where they studied how even those crystallized behaviors can be changed or adapted. That is the crux of that paper. Fantastic methodology. Although I work on humans, there is always something that I can learn from people who study other species. As students of neuroscience, we are interested in studying the history of neuroscience across all species because we are always curious, because we are always interested in improving our methodology and our interpretation. Also, the history of neuroscience extends across many systems. Three great systems that we are interested in is essentially sensory systems. We know what the 5 senses are. These are the sense of vision, eyesight, hearing, smell, the chemical senses, smell and taste, and touch or the haptic sense. These are the 5 senses that we have. Then we have the motor system, in which I am interested in. Particularly, I am interested in voluntary motor performance and learning. But then motor systems itself is a broad field, starting with autonomic systems, posture, reflexes, central or spinal pattern generators, spinal cord or spinal systems, and what we study, which is higher motor centers within double quotes. Higher means not necessarily superior, but rather the control is from the brain. Then we have central systems. These are neuroendocrine system, circadian rhythms, feeding, mating and reproduction, motivation, perception, learning and memory, and higher cognitive functions, decision making, social behavior, for example, higher cognitive functions. All these systems fall within the gamut, fall within the grand continuum that is neuroscience. Also, the history of neuroscience extends across many hierarchical levels of organization. We just saw some. For example, higher cognitive and social functions. How groups of humans interact with each other. For example, behavior of people from one country or people who speak one language. How do they interact with people who speak a different language or people of a different nationality? Groups of people, social interactions. Then how one human interacts with another human, higher cognitive behavior. How one human behaves herself. Within a human, we have specific systems. This is of interest for us because we are interested in more clinical applications. For example, we are interested in neurology, neurosurgery, and psychiatry. So, we are interested in understanding circuits of specific systems. At a lower level of organization, within these circuits, we are interested in understanding synapses, synaptic potentials, action potentials, how information is integrated or synthesized. This is a grand goal for us to understand how information is synthesized. Some understanding of this exists, for example, the understanding of temporal summation and spatial summation. But synthesis itself is a huge topic. For example, at the higher cognitive level, we are interested in getting information from various sources and then synthesizing. For example, something that you would do as students of the field or students who are watching this video would be that you are getting some information by watching this video, but you are also reading the book, you are also reading other materials that is given to you, you are also reading from the web, and you are synthesizing all this information. It is not clear what this synthesis means. Synthesis is not merely putting together everything. Synthesis is something that goes beyond adding things together, right? Understanding. How do we even measure things such as understanding or synthesis? Then at a level below the level of synapses, we have molecules, then we have genes. So, the study of neuroscience extends across all these levels, and you can see, for example, if you go to Society for Neuroscience meeting, that people study social neuroscience, social interactions, cognitive systems, circuits of specific systems, synapses, molecules, genetics, all this breadth in one roof, for example, right. So, history of neuroscience extends across all these hierarchical levels. With this, we come to the end of this video. In this video, we saw why the history of neuroscience extends across many species, starting from single cell organisms to worms, insects, arthropods, to vertebrates such as fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, higher mammals, primates, lower primates, higher primates, and big monkeys and humans. And we also saw how history of neuroscience and the study of neuroscience extends across many hierarchical levels, starting with social interactions between groups of individuals to interactions between members of the same species, what is happening within one member of one species, circuits of one member of one species, and how neurons interact with each other, and how molecules interact with each other, and how genes help in our understanding of this. So, you have humans interacting with each other and informing each other, then you have neurons interacting with each other and informing each other. Synthesis is happening at multiple levels. Humans are informing each other and humans are synthesizing information. Neurons are informing each other and neurons are synthesizing information. But these two levels of synthesis do not refer to the same thing, right? So, with this we come to the end of this video. Thank you very much for your attention.